Hey y'all, before we get too far into this episode, I want to acknowledge that Amanda knows that she is mispronouncing my name. We recorded this episode over a month ago, and at the time, I wasn't quite comfortable with correcting her because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. It's a whole thing. But I finally did let her know, and she was just like, "Girl, why didn't you just? You should have just told me." It was a whole thing. We laughed about it. So I just wanted to add that in there before this episode started because I couldn't edit out when she mispronounced my name because it wouldn't have made sense. So just wanted to let y'all know we're both aware. And in later episodes, it won't happen. Anyway, enjoy this video, y'all. Let's chat in the comments. Bye. I'm like picturing all of this. Oh my god. Ugh. Okay, I have actual tears.
Oh, this is amazing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Whew. Cue the intro music. Welcome to the Yaoi Shelf. Grab a seat and relax.
You did it. I'm so proud of you.
So once again, we're going to introduce ourselves in case you're new. However, if you are new, this is episode 4. I need you to go back and listen to the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, if this is your first episode, I mean, welcome. I don't know how you found it. Oh.
You've missed a lot. Please go back.
Yeah, there's some updating that you would need to do. Yes.
But for now, I am Aisha, aka MommaLuvsManga. Okay? And this is my wonderful, lovely, shady-ass co-host.
My name is Amanda, also known as AichiYume, and yes, I am an incredibly shady person, and I have been since I exited the womb.
It's okay. This is why I love her. And just we work well together. Okay, we do. So, Amanda.
We do. Yes.
So, Amanda, what are we talking about today?
All right, kids. Well, not kids, because this is an 18+ procedure. We're going to talk about problematic stuff. This is an episode that I know, I think since we started this podcast is one that I've really wanted to tackle.
Yes. You've been very excited. I'm slightly nervous, but I think it's going to be, I think it'll be good. Yeah. I think it'll be good.
Why are you nervous? What makes you nervous about this? Do I make you nervous?
No, it's not you per se. I think this is going to be, I don't want to say controversial, but I do know that there are going to be a lot of people who may not like this conversation, because there are a lot of people who like to use the word problematic a lot, and I don't really think they know fully what it means, and
I can't stand people who do that.
So I think that it's going to be interesting, but yeah, it definitely does get thrown around a lot.
It does,
and nervous.
This is where I'm going to go ahead and say that I have a background in this stuff from a much older generation, so I think that leads a lot into my experience and how I process words like problematic and stuff like that. I guess in this instance, I'm the weeaboo boomer. I'm a little bit less tolerant to the word problematic being thrown around. If you do, I will say this. I'm going to go ahead and shield Aisha a little bit. if you disagree with me at any point in time, disagree with me. Like, this girl does not deserve any barbs that you can throw. If you do not agree with anything that I have to say, cash me outside. How about that? Like, I can handle it. If you think that one of my hot takes is too hot, come at me. Because, like, I've been doing this for 15 years. I can handle you. Whatever argument you have, I got you. But do not send any hate to Aisha, because I will not tolerate that at all.
Thank you, friend.
You're welcome. I need you alive so I can continue to ride on the coattails of your fame.
Oh my gosh. Okay. See, no, I'm not famous. Okay. Like, not even close. You always say, oh my gosh, I can't with you.
So, should we define what the word problematic means?
Yes, I think that would be a good way to go ahead and like start this. Is just, what is problematic? What does that actually mean? And we'll go from there.
Okay. You know what? I think it might be interesting to sort of AFNEG this a little bit. What do you think problematic means? I'm going to put you right on the spot. What do you think it means?
Okay, so for me personally, when something is problematic, I believe that it is when something harmful is being portrayed as a positive. And I'm specifically speaking for manga. We'll keep it within the BL frame, because I'm sure it's different for different things, but within the BL manga frame, I would say something to me that's like genuinely problematic, for example, is the predatory gay trope.
Okay.
Because of the fact that in real life, there are a lot of people. I live in Oklahoma, where a lot of people still believe that gay men specifically are predators, all these things. And so for me, that is something that is problematic, because it is reflecting real life, and then making someone that believes that could read that and be like, see, that's how they are. And I know that that's not everyone's. I know everyone's not going to read that and think that, but it is problematic to me. It's the same thing leaving the BL space, talking about like Black people and how we are portrayed in the media a lot of the time. Yeah, it's fiction, but it is problematic to have Black women in a show portrayed as like, let's say a single mother, like a perpetually single, mother, whatever. Because, like, yeah, there are single Black mothers, absolutely, but when you see them on TV, like when you see them portrayed in movies as single mothers who are constantly going through it, it definitely like backs up that narrative that a lot of people already believe. And so that's when I see it as problematic, when it's happening to the point where like it's overdone. Like, I get that there are people that exist in life like that, but to have it portrayed in media over and over, especially in fiction, when you could write a different narrative, that's when it's problematic. So that's, I guess, I don't know if that explains my feelings about what problematic is, but yeah, if it's something, it's a harmful trope or whatever that we see in real life, that it's constantly being portrayed in fiction when it doesn't have to be that way, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense.
So what about you?
Okay. So I think for me, let's see. For me, I think I don't think a lot of things are problematic. I think the only times that I tend to do are things that mostly just like haven't aged well. So like outdated terminology. So like I like a lot of boys love from like the 90s and stuff like that. So like seeing the word tranny, that's not a word that we use anymore.
Right.
Seeing like the F word being used for queer people, like So for me, problematic mostly comes from like outdated modes of thought. Like, so the one big thing that comes to mind for me like is gravitation, where it has like some very outdated thoughts around like bisexuality and very like reductive thoughts about that kind of stuff. And like there's a lot of discussions about like just general masculinity when it comes to like who is what in the gay romance. Like that to me, if something is problematic to me, it kind of just makes me go yikes. Like if it's like a cringe, like a sort of thing, that tends to be problematic. Now I don't react to those things usually very strongly because like if you know anything about me, gravitation is like one of the most important things in my life. So like even though I can say, hey, I think that that's a bit of a yikes, like it's not enough in that instance for me to be like, that's a full hard stop.
Right.
But that's to me what tends to be problematic. That's what I find mostly to be problematic when it comes to like, especially in the boys love space, is just like things that are outdated or just like didn't age well. Like, oh, that's not a great way to talk about like being transgender or being bisexual or like sexual assault. Like those aren't great ways to cover that topic because now we have different ways of talking about that. But again, like because a lot of the stuff is older, I'm kind of willing to give it a pass, air quotes, because like it was the 1990s. There was no other word for transgender person.
Yeah.
Like that was the word that everyone used. Now, here's where I turn a little bit old man yells at cloud. What the word problematic does not mean is I don't like something. That drives me up the wall. If you don't like something, that does not make it problematic.
Right.
You don't get to throw that word around. And I think like that has really muddied the discourse because the thing with problematic is that it's sort of like cultural appropriation where it shuts people down. It's a great way to shut a conversation down. So like if I mentioned, oh God, what's a problematic anime that I could list, or like a problematic boys love? 10 count.
We said that at the same time.
We sure did. We are synced up. The planets have aligned. We are now of one brain.
I was not expecting.
That was great.
Was perfection.
I was. So if there's something in 10 count that I don't like, I don't get to call that problematic. It's like, because like, yeah, like the things that Aisha's mentioned about it, like I do have some issues with the way that like therapy is displayed and like stuff like that. But it's not like, my therapist has never done any of that to me. I might be on a very different therapy journey if that was the case. I've never had... I also have OCD. My therapist has never offered to do any of that, but all right.
Listen, if I had a therapist who looked like that, I'd be like, you know what? See, that's problematic.
I mean, that is a very... I'm being problematic. See, we're going to get canceled. Right, we're going to get canceled. Those youths are going to cancel us. But, like, is that a little bit cringe for me? Sure it is. Right. But, like, I'm not going to go call anyone something awful.
Right.
Because it's a little cringe for me. And I think, like, that's something that I want to say off the bat. Stop throwing that word around because you can ruin someone's life. Yeah. Like, cancel culture is exhausting. It's scary, and there's so much context around this stuff that I think a lot of people, and I hate making it an age thing, but I think it's an age thing, is that a lot of younger people have all this terminology and all of these words, and they use these words like weapons. And instead of having discourse, it just shuts people down.
Right.
Like, do you want to shut a conversation down? Say something's problematic. Say something is culturally appropriative. Say those things. And it just, you can't, most people don't have the rhetorical skill to be able to navigate around that. Now, luckily, I'm an asshole and I can. I will fight you.
Right.
It's like, that's appropriative. Where? Tell me where. And tell me why. This is problematic. What element?
Right.
Talk to me. You can't just throw that word out with me and then hope that I get scared, because I'm not going to. You are not going to scare me by, if I post something, it's like, that series is problematic. Tell me what element.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me which part. And then let's talk about it. Let me tell you why you're wrong. Or at least let's get to a consensus of why you feel that way.
Right. And that's...
Because I guarantee you...
Yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Well, because, like, just most of the time, it's usually such arbitrary stuff, or it's stuff that can be explained away. Like, it's stuff from older series where, like, yes, that's a yikes. This series is also older than you are.
Right. Yeah. Well, and...
Or this is culturally different.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, is that, and going back to what you said about people using the word problematic to describe just something that they don't like. It's not, like, there are a lot of things that I've read in a lot of BL that I don't like, but I would not call it problematic for myself. Now, I have used the term problematic because I know that's the term that a lot of people use and understand. But what I really mean is I don't like this aspect of it. It was triggering for me, or it was whatever, or I didn't like the way that it went. But it's not necessarily problematic because, again, it's something that's not necessarily causing harm, or it's not necessarily causing someone to think, okay, yeah, what if, like, it's not necessarily, what's the word I'm looking for, corroborating someone's current beliefs. You know what I mean? Like, if someone is reading, like, going back to 10 count with, that the therapist guy, he was doing, they were both flawed people, but he definitely was abusing his position as a therapist. But I highly doubt that a therapist with their heads on their shoulders is going to read 10 count and be like, I'm going to try that on my next client. Like, that's not, it's
right. Like, it's not a manual.
Right. It's not something
like, it's not an illustrated guide. Like, how do I ruin a patient and fuck them too?
Yeah. And like, no, like, most therapists aren't going to read 10 count. Or most therapists aren't going to read 10 count and be like, hey, this is a great way to treat a patient with OCD. Like, no. And people with OCD, or if you're suspecting that you have OCD, I would hope that you're not going to 10 count and, like, using that as a
please don't let 10 count be the thing that helps you figure out your OCD, for the love of God.
Like, please don't do that, because it's not.
Please don't.
And that's why I'm saying, like, 10 count is not framed as something that is meant to be a guide. So therefore, to me, for my definition of problematic, it is not problematic. If it were framed as something that you're supposed to, like, this is how it's supposed to look. Like, this is how, that's problematic. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Obviously, everyone's idea of problematic is going to be a little different. But for me, like, framing really plays a part in it. Like, if 10 count was marketed as this, like, authentic look into, these two people's lives, like an authentic portrayal of a person with OCD or a therapist and all these things, like, then I'd be like, whew, that's problematic. But it is absolutely not. In no way, shape, or form is it meant to be like this authentic look. It's just a look into like a what if this scenario happened, and let's see how messy it can be.
And not even authentic. Like, I think I would, so, like, we say framing a lot, and framing really is just how something is framed, or you see it within a narrative. And framing is an issue because it can really color your experience of how you see something in fiction. So, like, Law and Order SVU has this problem a lot where it really frames violence against women as very sexy. Like, the women, their bodies are posed very artistically. Usually the music kind of swells right before something happens. It's shot like a porno sometimes, which can be really, really dangerous and continues to perpetuate some of these issues that we have with violence against women because it's framed as attractive. So I don't even need 10 count to be framed authentically. Even if just one character was more innocent than the other, I would have issues with that. I would find that to be problematic. But because they're both messy assholes, I'm okay with it. And I'm here for it. Where is my popcorn?
Right.
And I think framing is a huge part of what... I think framing is a big part of, like, what makes, for my mileage on problematic things... stretch or lower, because I can, much like a used bottom, I can take a lot of abuse, but I need it framed well. Like, I can take a lot of, like, really negative stuff in a series, but you cannot ask me to have good thoughts about anyone doing something bad. I broke Aisha.
I am so tired of you sliding in those, like... Yeah, you choke on that thing that you were fixing to drink. Like, you choke on it because you do that all the time. You slide in some, like, little thing talking about, like, a used bottom. Bitch. I can't. And then you just keep moving like you didn't just say that.
I love that that's what makes you mad, is that there's no pause. Is that I will just say that and keep rolling.
I can't with you. Anyway, continue on your little...
But yeah, like, I think it's the framing that usually helps me deal with stuff. Like, I will continue to talk about Maiden Rose, and I will keep beating this dead horse. You are never expected to empathize with either of the main characters because they're both doing bad things. So when Klaus literally rapes Taki, the framing is horrific. Everything about it is shown that it's bad. Taki is, like, repeatedly saying no. He's clearly protesting. No one is enjoying this. No one's having a good time. Klaus looks huge in the frame of the panel. He's intimidating and terrifying. Everything about this looks like a crime. So there's no empathy that you have for him. He is a monster in that scene because he's acting monstrously.
Right.
So I don't feel anything good about his monstrous act, which means that I can see that scene as it is. Bad. Now it means that I have a different way of processing it because I can still read it as bad and keep moving. But if they tried to make me empathize with Klaus in any way during those scenes, I would have very different mileage on how I feel about that. Because that's one part of earlier Boys Love that I have a very low mileage of now, is the romanticization of, like, rape. Like, rape is really fetishized and romanticized in early Boys Love, and I just don't have the mileage for that anymore that I used to. And that's a valid problem that if someone brought up, I would have no issue with saying is an issue. But no one talks about that part. But yeah, like, that's something that now, looking back at some of the series that I think are really important, like Jazz. Jazz was formative to me. I have a huge problem with how sexual assault is framed in that one.
Right.
I still do. And again, in the same breath, I can say that it was formative to me.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like anything that shuts down conversation. That's my big thing.
Right. Well, and speaking of, like, I'm literally thinking of a title that has rape in a way, like, I don't like it. And it is it's a trope that, like, I don't like. And it's rape used as a way for the characters to get together. So, like, in Where Has Love Gone, which is one that was one that I sent you. Yeah, and I actually, it's so upsetting because it has so much that I love. Like, they're office workers, so there's, like, office love. I love them, except for the first chapter. Like, the first chapter when you meet them, who I'm going to consider to be the sime, the dark-haired, because there's a dark-haired guy and a light-haired guy. The dark-haired guy rapes the light-haired guy at work. And the light-haired guy, while he's being raped, is like, oh, he's just doing this because he's really stressed and he's taking it out on me. And it's like, he's just completely flippant about it and okay about it. And I'm just like,
Right.
What? Like you're
That's a problem.
this is a problematic trope because again, it's portraying
Yeah.
something that in real life could really genuinely hurt someone, and it's portrayed in a it's
Yeah.
it's framed in a way that we're supposed to be okay with it. There are no consequences. The
Right.
dark-haired guy does not he ends up getting the guy, they end up together and
Right.
happy, and it's like frustrating because it's like they could have met in any other, you could have used any other way for them to get together. I would have even been fine if they had gone on like a, if they had to go out, to a company drinking thing like they do, they all have to go drinking together,
Mm-hmm.
and the two of them get drunk and end up in
Mm-hmm.
a love motel. Like, I would have been so fine with that if
Mm-hmm.
they're both drunk and they have like a one night stand,
Mm-hmm.
and then their relationship started from there. Me,
Mm-hmm.
and the way I'm set up, I'm good with that. Okay, like that is something that I
Right.
would love to see. But rape, like really, you had to do like, and then you had to frame it in a like you have now. I have to like the person who did the raping and feel bad for him because he's stressed. No, you don't get to rape someone just because you're stressed. That's weird. So that's like the one thing. And I still enjoy this. I'm still keeping it because everything else about this story, I really enjoy.
Was fine.
Like, they are actually, like,
Right.
outside of that, they are a very fun, cute couple. Like, the way they
Mm-hmm.
navigate their relationship is interesting. And it's upsetting because I'm like, why? Why did you have to? Who wrote this? Who is the mangaka? Oh, Ryoku Tsunoda, why did you have to
Mm-hmm.
start their relationship out with rape? Like, and the thing is what I will say is I do appreciate the fact that the rapist is not gay, or he was not the openly gay one. You know what I mean? Or not openly, because
Mm-hmm.
the but he was seemingly straight. So at least the straight one, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
using air quotes, is the aggressor and not. So there's not the
Mm-hmm.
predatory gay trope. Not really.
Like in a Fumi Yoshinaga manga?
Y'all can't see Amanda's face, but the way she's looking at me, she's like, bitch, listen.
Mm-hmm.
I realize
Mm-hmm.
this. Yes, we.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that my fave has definitely participated in the tropes that I do consider problem. I understand this. I still love her. Okay, like
I mean,
but I
same.
also still love Ono. I can be a
Even though
hypocrite
he's
sometimes.
awful.
Okay? I can be a hypocrite sometimes. I'm allowed to be.
I can be a hypocrite
I'm
sometimes.
grown. Okay?
Oh, okay. 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 We're grown. That's why. All right. Um, that actually brings me into a footnote that I think is important to bring up. We mentioned this a little bit in episode 2,
Yes.
but I think the reason why we're kind of glossing over some things with problematic is that we're really coming at this from a perspective of you are watching this you're consuming this content at an appropriate
Yeah.
age. If you want to have a conversation of why things are problematic for underage viewers and readers, I would definitely say go to episode 2 because I don't want to go through that conversation
Right.
again because I'm tired.
Yes. Yes.
Because I'm tired and it's late.
Yes.
But we're really coming at this from you are 18 plus / as
Yes.
mature as you can be, because there's a whole other barrel of fish that comes with problematic elements for young readers as they develop.
Yes.
Because, oh boy, does it do something for you and your sexuality when, like, every media depiction that you have of sex is rape or is painful
Yes.
or is, like, not really consensual. Speaking from experience, that
Right.
does something to you.
Yes. Yes.
But we're not here to talk
Right.
about that right now.
Yeah.
So we are merely
Yeah, like Amanda said, we talked about that unexpectedly, actually, in episode 2. So definitely go back to that if you haven't listened to it, because we do dive into the
Right.
whole age thing, and we both
Yes.
both very much agree on that point for sure. Like, there are some things that are not meant for underage people. So yeah, we are definitely talking about this in the from the narrative of like we are adults, and we can differentiate between fiction and reality, and we are
Mm-hmm.
pretty much like both of us are over the age of 25, so our brains are technically fully developed. Our brains may be riddled with mental health
Mm-hmm.
issues, but they are fully developed.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we're hoping that if you're listening to this, yours is as well. So, yes,
Yeah.
that was a good thing to add, though.
Yeah, and I think we're also looking at this mostly from like a trope standpoint as
Mm-hmm,
well,
mm-hmm.
and then a discourse standpoint. So like my big thing with media criticism is I want you, listener, to be able to have great conversations online.
Mm-hmm.
Because out of all the things that I miss about the old internet, it was being able to like debate people. I
Yeah.
miss being able to like have that debate. It's like, this is my OTP. You disagree with me? Tell me why.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your shipping manifesto? Give me all of your
Right.
reasons. What are your headcanons? Tell me. I miss being able to have those conversations with people. You agree with me? Cool. On what points? You disagree with me? Even fucking better.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why. Tell me why you do not support what I think.
Right.
I really, really miss that. I miss being able to have those conversations. And it especially frustrates me, again, with a lot of these words that get thrown around almost to like really shut down conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, it's just like, so do you remember the dog whisperer?
Yes.
Caesar Milan?
Yes.
Do you know that thing that he would do to dogs where he's like, and he'd like
Yes.
pinch and like they'd immediately stop barking?
Yes.
I feel like whenever you say that's problematic in a conversation, that's what you're doing. It's like,
Oh.
you're just shutting it down because you don't want to keep having a conversation. You don't want to keep pressing that point.
Right.
You have nothing else to say.
Right.
I feel like if you throw out that's problematic or that's cultural appropriation or that's something phobic or you're a pedophile, I feel like if you throw that out and then no follow up, you don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
You have no other points. Because, like, to bring back the My Hero Academia, you're a pedophile conversation, like, you know what? You have a valid point there. All of media has a problem with sexualizing minors. Yes. How about you stop yelling at people on Twitter about that, though? Like, stop yelling at especially older female fans who know the difference between reality and fiction. Why are you yelling at them? Why are you yelling at a creator who made a series set in high school? Like, why are you yelling about that? Like, he didn't write this for the purpose of porn to exist. Right. That's not his fault. Yeah. That's not his fault that folks are horny. Right. Like, that's, like, I don't understand that. But, like, I feel like if you throw out those, like, strong words, that's what you're doing. You're, like, Vulcan nerve pinching because you don't want to have a conversation. Right. You don't want to have a real conversation. Right. Because it's like, you know what? Sure, you're right. There is an issue across all media everywhere of sexualizing teens. That is correct. What do we do about that?
I mean, heck, that actually makes me think of recently on Twitter, there's like kind of this discourse, like someone that I follow had posted this photo from a manga of this character, and they were like, how old, like judging on how this character looks, how old do you think they are? And I quote tweeted it, and I was like, okay, they look 35, which means they're probably 15, which it turns out that character was 15. And then we were kind of all laughing about how, like, and I was like, you know, manga and anime will have 5-year-olds looking 40, you know, and so then, like, as older people, we're looking at, we're like, who's this character? Ooh, they fine. And you're reading, and then you find out that they are meant to be a lot younger than what they look like. And it brings up the conversation of, like, again, it's fiction, and it's okay to think that character is attractive, you know, like, or I think it's okay to think that a character is attractive. Now there are some times I do find it creepy when people find characters that are drawn to look like how actual children look like attractive. That does creep me out.
Oh yeah,
that creeps me out. But if a character is drawn and they literally look like, we see it all the time. A lot of these quote unquote high school characters are absolutely drawn in a way where they look a lot older. One of my internet friends had posted this had tweeted something about how like a lot of people don't know what actual 19-year-olds look like because of media and the fact that you have 20 and 30-year-olds playing 19-year-olds. And that is so true.
Right.
Like, I think about Clueless. When I was, a teen, Clueless was a thing.
Yeah.
And they were both, like, Cher and Dion, like, they were in their 20s and 30s when they were playing those characters. And, so like, I remember watching these things as a teen and thinking that's how teenagers are supposed to look and being confused as to why I looked 5 compared to these people. And then
it's because you have no boobs. That's why.
That is exactly why. But also,
was that too direct?
I'm dead. But also, it's because they had a good like decade on me, which, okay, to be fair, I still don't have boobs. Like, I'm their age. I just still don't, it didn't happen for me, but that's beside the point. The point is that we have a distorted idea of what teenagers are supposed to look like because we were watching people in their fully adult people playing teens. And so like when you see a person, like there are people who to this day think that I am 18.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, I'm decidedly not 18. But because of the way that, we see people portrayed in certain, like in anime and manga, like certain body types, they might be drawn in a certain way. And because you have the opposite where you have, someone with my body type being portrayed and, they're supposed to be children, they're children. And it can be like, it's just it can be a slippery slope.
It can be very, but also I think it's important to, let's go back to demographics. So especially around, so this is shonen, but not shonen ai. Like if we're talking about like My Hero Academia or like Naruto or like any of those other series where like, oh, I find this fictional character attractive, but you're older, because it's not for you. That doesn't make you gross, but like it's not, you aged out of that demographic, and like that's fine. I know it, like at least for me, I definitely noticed like my gaze shifting when it came to like those series. So like if we're sticking like in the, if we're using shonen analogies to talk about boys love, because there is nothing gayer than a shonen anime. There's useless women, and all of the men have chemistry. True. There is a reason why most of the smut is like from shonen anime. There is nothing gayer.
Right.
If you're talking like, the example that always comes to mind for you, like Full Metal Alchemist. Like, when I started that series when I was about Edward's age. So, of course, I'm focusing on Ed, I'm focusing on Al, I'm focusing there. Yeah. I'm pushing 30 now. My whole focus is on Roy Mustang because I relate to him on a molecular level.
Right.
I'm tired. I don't want to be here. I'm surrounded by incompetent people. Right. I probably have mental illness. And by probably, I mean I definitely have mental illness. I have PTSD. I am a dictator surrounded by people who want to make sure that I succeed. Like, I relate to him on a molecular level. Right. So my gaze shifted. And as far as, like, attractiveness also shifted. So, like, I was never huge on shipping Ed and Roy. That was never, I never shipped those two.
Shipped them?
I will sail a ship of, oof. I have some news for you.
Oh, anyway.
I have some bad news for you.
I'm trying not to be judgy.
Unfortunately, there's some material of that that
Oof. Okay.
I will sail a soft ship of a Mustang and Havoc though. I'll sail that ship.
I could see that. Yeah, that would be fine with that. I think maybe. Yeah,
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm cool with that. But like I know, like for me being an older fan now, like my gaze has really shifted. But also, and we're gonna get into like some conspiracy theory territory with this. I have a theory about this kind of stuff, is that, at least for me as a fan, especially as an older fan, when I'm looking at illicit acts between air quotes like underage characters, it isn't about me self-inserting into that role. It's more of like voyeurism than wanting to like be a part of it. So it's like, oh, look at this thing happening versus I want to be either of these characters. Like, so the example that I used is Bakugo and Deku, because I've been down a My Hero Academia rabbit hole out of spite. Out of pure spite. Like, I am being fueled by spite, salt, and like just bitterness. Like, in any of those situations, I don't want to self-insert into that role. Like, I don't want Bakugo. But like, okay, cool. Like, this is an interesting scenario where these two are exploring themselves. When I was texting Aisha about this, like, I think I used the word like sexual tennis. Like, it's like watching a cool dance happen. It's like, oh, this is what led up to that act. Like, and I guess, like, for me also being a writer, that comes into it. So, like, as a person who spent a lot of time writing smut, I'm way more interested in what leads up to the act more voyeuristically, rather than I want to be taking the D from either of these characters. Like, it's not so much about that for me. And I also think it goes back to, like, and I know we have some disagreement on this, I am very, very, very rarely reading, like, yaoi to get off. Like, it's never really done that for me. So, because especially, like, it's not really masturbatory or pornographic to me. Like, I don't have a lot of, like, moral guilt with, like, oh, these characters are in high school. Woo! It's like, so? I definitely did worse in high school, so, like, be free. Go. Like, you know what I mean?
So, like, you're looking at it from the perspective of, like, this is a story that I'm reading. I'm not inserting myself into this. But this is very, it's how I generally read, it's how I generally read, like, I like, you know, I like a lot of messy series, and so I can read some messy things and not necessarily want to be a part of it. I'm enjoying just, like, watching it, like, that, it's that voyeurism. But we do differ in that, like, when it comes to, for me personally, when it comes to yaoi specifically, because yaoi tends to be the more explicit when we're, you know, I know that you can use BL interchangeably kind of with yaoi, or some people do, but when I think of yaoi, I think of explicit. And so for me, if I'm reading, if I'm going into something that I know is going to be sexually explicit, I personally prefer for my characters to be adult characters, because when I'm going into it knowing that it's sexually explicit, I'm like, I want, if this is going to be sexually explicit, I'm ready to get a little bit turned on, you know. And for me, I don't want minors in that, you know. It kind of kills it for me. And actually, I think of a series that I really enjoy in theory, which is Jackass. Or I say series, it's a one shot. Jackass by Scarlett Barico. It's a story that, in theory, I very much enjoyed. Like, I loved the story. I wish that had been. I wish it hadn't have been. Well, actually, I'm fine with how it is. But for me and my tastes, I would have enjoyed it more if it weren't so, like, so sexually explicit. Like, if it were written or drawn in a way where, like, maybe there was more of a fade to black kind of thing, and then I think I would have been a lot more like, oh my gosh, this is so great. But for me, the way that it was drawn, like the way a lot of the scenes were drawn, it triggered, like, for me, I was like, this is meant to be, this is meant to turn someone on. Like, again, like, everyone's perspective is going to be different, but for me, I'm reading, I'm like, this is supposed to turn me on, and I am sadly not enjoying it because they are high schoolers, and I'm just like, ugh, this kind of ruins it for me, because Like, I'm not, it's just, it ruined it for me. And it
Yeah.
made me wish that they were older. Because I was just like, I can't
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy this because they're kids. But to me, they're kids. Now, it is a
Yeah.
story that I would recommend it. I would totally recommend it to people who are a lot younger than I am. I honestly, like, I would even say, and I know that it's supposed to be for 18 and up, but I would say 16 and up. I would definitely be like, you know what,
Mm.
read this, because if you are, because it's actually relative, like, it's surprisingly healthy. Like, yes, it's still fiction, but it's surprisingly, like, I would let a 16-year-old read it and not feel like they're learning
Mm-hmm.
something that's going to scar them for life, you know. Like, it's very, I really do enjoy the story. But like I said, but for me, because I went into it knowing that it was sexually explicit, I was sad because I was like, oh, these are high schoolers. Like, I can't enjoy
Mm-hmm.
it for that aspect. So if that had been toned down, then I would have been like, yes, this is amazing, because the story itself was so good. Does that make sense? What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
No, it makes sense. And like actually like so fun fact
Mm,
for me, if I am looking to get down and dirty with
mm,
myself, I'm actually in the same boat.
mm,
Like I would also need I would be concerned about like consent and
mm-hmm.
like all that other stuff like if I'm looking to get off
Right.
myself. Like I completely agree with you on that.
Mm,
But like yeah, I'm usually coming at yaoi from like this is entertainment. Like
yeah.
this is a coffee table read to me. Like this is fiction. This is fun. Like this
Right.
is just and the sex is usually is usually ancillary. That's one of
Mm-hmm.
the reasons why I like messy series as much as I do because
Mm-hmm.
like the drama, the chess, the emotions,
Yes.
the power play,
Mm-hmm.
all that like emotional foreplay is so much more interesting
Mm-hmm.
to me. So then when they finally do lay down and
Mm-hmm.
fuck, it's like yes, I've spent time with these
Yeah.
characters. I'm invested. I
Mm-hmm.
care. I want to see them do this or not do
Mm-hmm.
this. I don't know yet. Um, but yeah, like I think that's something that's always been kind of interesting for me is that it's more of like a voyeurism
Mm-hmm.
thing rather than it being like I want to do these characters.
Right.
Like I just finished up Beastars and not getting into spoilers. I actually could not watch that all in one breath
Mm-hmm.
because like it got too horny for me. And it's like I'm gonna give these kids some privacy.
Right.
Like that's honestly like a thought that I had. Is like I'm gonna give these kids some privacy. They look like they need some privacy. Like I'm talking to a fictional wolf and a fictional rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it looks like you kids need a minute to yourselves. Like I felt like a mom who walked in on her son jacking
Right. And
off.
you're
It's
like,
like
oh,
I'm gonna give you a minute.
I'm gonna
It's
head
like
out.
I'm just gonna, you know what, you enjoy
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see you at dinner.
Right.
Like I could not watch that like all in one breath because it's like, okay, this is a little too
Mm-hmm.
horny for me. But like there was some random person on TikTok who was like, if you want to have sex with Lugosi, he's 17. I'm like, and I was talking to my best friend last night, like, he's also a
He's a
fucking
wolf.
wolf. Like if you expressed interest in sleeping with Lugosi and the first thing you say is he's 17, it's like he's also a goddamn wolf.
uh, so
TBH, there are bigger problems
right.
that we need to address than he's 17.
Right. Although I will say, he is fine as hell. Like, I'm just gonna say it.
You are a deviant.
I'm just gonna say it.
No.
But
no.
also when I was a kid, like, I had a crush on young Simba, actually even grown Simba from The Lion King when I was a kid.
You are gross.
So I've always
I do
been
not.
a little bit of
no,
a furry.
I do not support.
So I'm just,
No,
I mean,
I don't support your deviant lifestyle.
I had a crush on Max from a Goofy movie. And also Roxanne, because she was fine as hell. So I mean,
no.
Listen, I grew up in a time when
No.
we were groomed to be furries. Like, think about all the cartoons that were out when I was growing up that featured hot ass.
You're not that much older than me, and I'm not a furry.
True.
Thank you. What do you mean true? Thank you, bitch. No. no. I do not support your deviant lifestyle. I will not support you wanting to hop on Lugosi's knot. I don't support that
but
for you.
I draw the line because he is 17, okay? Like...
Fuck you. No. No. That is the age of consent, probably in Alabama. You're fine.
I don't live in Alabama.
And Alabama probably would let you fuck a wolf. Alabama would let you fuck a 17-year-old wolf.
They would, honestly. I'm dead. Oh my gosh. Woo. Well, that took a turn.
You are a monster. How dare you? How dare you subject me to your deviancy? Over here trying to assault this poor innocent virgin wolf. I'm here to protect Lugosi's virginity from all you thirsty fucks. Something about him being 17, I just worry about his psyche.
Woo. Oh my gosh. Ugh. So, that actually leads into a really good, this is a good segue into what do I do if a problematic thing does it for me?
What do I do if I want to fuck a 17-year-old wolf? What do I do if I want to fuck a 17-year-old anthropomorphic wolf? Is the question you're asking me? Don't do it, is what I have in the outline, and I'm gonna say it. Don't do it. There are some safe kinks that you can explore, like fucking a guy in a furry costume, but I'm not gonna let you have sex with a 17-year-old wolf.
I'm crying.
In which Amanda becomes a nun for a few minutes and has very strong opinions about wolves.
It's cracking me up because I have not seen you have such a strong... like, of all the things, you're just like, you know what, I'm cool with this and this and this, but then I say that Lugosi is hot, and you're like, I put my foot down.
I have read a manga where a guy disembowels another guy while fucking him and jerks himself off through his intestines, and I am more fine with that than you saying you want to fuck Lugosi. I have read a manga where someone shoves a gun into some dude's ass and pulls the trigger, and I am more fine with that than you saying that you want to hop on Lugosi's knot. I don't support that. I think you're a deviant, and I think that you're wrong for that. That poor virgin wolf is only 17 years old. When there is a perfectly fine 18-year-old rabbit that you can fondle, and a perfectly fine 18-year-old deer that you can do whatever the hell you want to. Don't fuck any of the animals.
I really hope that people...
Episode 4, I kill Aisha.
I really hope that the people who are listening to this also realize that I don't actually want to have sex with animals. Like, please, I don't actually want... Unless they look like Lugosi. I love
that I had so much conviction that you felt like you had to add that as preamble. I'm glad that I became a preacher's daughter for a minute.
You never know. Somebody might be listening and be like, wait a minute. Does she... Are they
She's
serious?
A wolf fucker?
I'm not, like, no, we're not.
God, no, we're not fucking serious.
We're not serious. My God. Like, no.
I'm already tired. Don't say that. I'm already exhausted. Don't say that.
But that...
No, I don't think that you want to go out into the actual woods and fuck a wolf.
Because that would... I
hope not.
I value my life too much. That would be absolutely stupid. For... like, ooh. But...
Also immoral.
And also immoral.
I love that your concern is dying.
I don't want to die.
Not that it's just a fucking abomination.
I don't want to die for some wolf dick. It's not that serious for me. I have perfectly good human dick I can hop on whenever I want. I'm not trying to die for...
And if you want a knot, I can get you knots. If knotting is your thing, I can get you a
I can
knot.
get it. I got it. Oh man, I'm dead. So, but really though, the question of
You're
what do
welcome.
I do if a problematic thing does it for me? Like, yeah, don't act on it. Like you said in the notes, don't act on it.
Yeah.
You know, like it's, and yes, there are some say like there are people who do have a rape fetish. Like they don't want to be raped in real life. Most people don't want
Yeah.
that, but you might read it in a BL and you might like that. Just because I don't like that trope personally doesn't mean that you can't it doesn't mean that you're a terrible person if you read that and you're like, that's kind of hot. Like it's
Right. And there's safe kink ways to do that. Like you can discuss with your partner,
yeah.
hey, I might struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
Here's a safe word that means that you've definitely gone too far. But even if you hear me, and this is usually a committed partner, like this isn't like a first date thing or anything like that, but like a committed long-term partner, saying, hey, I kind of want to struggle a little bit. I want this to be a little bit rough. And you talk about those terms beforehand. You do the thing. You have some aftercare. You get some Oreos and, you put aloe on all of your burns and stuff like that. So I said that way too quickly. Oof. Said that way too fast. But, there are some safe ways to explore those kind of problematic things. Now, there are some problematic things that don't explore. So don't go try to sleep with actual wolves. If you find yourself oh, I'm attracted to this high school character, don't sleep with actual high schoolers.
Exactly.
Those are easy things not to do. But if it's oh, I'm kind of into this somnophilia or sex while asleep. There are some safe, kinky ways to do that.
I'm going to admit something. That is definitely one of my kinks.
Yes.
100% one of my kinks. I'm not even, no joke at all. And I know that to some people, that could be triggering, and they may not like that, but that is something that I'm absolutely into. And, yeah. We're just going to leave it. So, there are things that some people are like, wow, that's weird, but other people are like, yeah,
so
that's cool.
So I only have one experience with that. It was with my last boyfriend. He had a key to my apartment, and he worked odd hours. And there was one day that he was gonna wake me up before work and trying to surprise me. I sleep dead on my stomach. I am face down, dead on my stomach. So he's trying to be cute and wake me up. And I'm in a tiny shitty ass studio apartment. So there's door and bed. That's it. There's no rooms, there's no noise. So he's trying to be all cute and wake me up and roll me over. And he does that, and I remember just looking up and screeching like a pterodactyl, because everything in my life that has taught me a person has entered my home and has flipped me over onto my prone fat belly, I'm going to get raped and murdered.
Oh no.
So I screech like a pterodactyl for about 15 seconds, and then it's oh, boyfriend.
Oh. Well, okay, but in that case, he probably should have warned you.
It was 5 o'clock in the morning, and he thought he was being cute by surprising me. I screamed, and not in the sexy way, genuine. No, he was not apologetic at all. He complained about how loud I was. But yeah, there are some safe ways to kind of explore some of those kinks. If this is a shameless plug, but it's a site that I love. It's called Ojoy Sex Toy. They talk a lot about sex and sexuality and toys and kink. So if you're ever looking for interesting and educational ways to maybe handle some of those kinks that are up for discussion, then that's a good resource. Again, there's some that aren't up for discussion, don't go fuck wolves.
Or deer, for that matter, because I've seen the thirst for him too on Twitter. So
I do like Lewis quite a bit. Not enough to fuck him, but I do think he's quite nice.
I haven't watched the anime yet, and I haven't gotten far enough in the manga yet to have much of an opinion on him. So, yeah, there's that.
I think you'll like him.
Okay.
So there's some safe kinks. I think there is no better way after I've shamed Aisha into let's go over some of the air quotes problematic tropes in specifically boys love that we're okay with and in no way okay with in real life. Like, we need to put up that flashing banner. In no way okay with in real life, or with some caveats to it, but ones that we can stomach.
Right.
In boys love.
Right.
So, do you have your 3, or do you want me to go first?
You go first. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. So I'm actually okay with non-con / dubious consent, and I am okay with some depictions of rape. We mentioned at the top of the show, it's all about framing for me. So I don't have a very high tolerance for just rape just being done as like rape is romance or anything like that. I have almost no stomach for that now. But if it's framed well, I actually have a pretty decent tolerance for it. I don't like it if it's being used just to advance a narrative. But depending on the work, I can tolerate it pretty well. Right. That also goes with violence. Like, I know some people don't have a huge tolerance for violence in this stuff, but again, framing, I can be okay with it. Like, if anything, I kind of like, within reason, the series that kind of make me gasp and stuff like that. Like, depending on how long we've been recording, I might do a little bit of story time where I tell Aisha about the 3 series that made me walk away from my computer for a while. But depending on, again, the work, I can be okay with, like, some violence. And then age gaps. Again, framing is key. I'm actually okay with some age gap stuff because for me, it's typically about consent. So even if the character is a little bit on the young side, I think for the most part, even at 16, if you're the right 16-year-old, you know what you want. Right. So like a Hitorijime My Hero comes to mind with that. It's like a lot of people give Hitorijime My Hero a hard time because Setagawa is a student and Kosuke is his teacher. And it's like, well, that's problematic because it's a student teacher. Well, yeah, but like Setagawa is one of the most mature like teenagers you'll ever meet. And he's been in love with Kosuke for years. So let him ride Kosuke's dick. Like, shut up. Like, this is not the hill to die on for me. Like, let those two be together. Like, he knows what he wants because he's wanted this for years. They've been in love for years together. Like, it's not like Kosuke's not twisting his arm behind his back or anything. Like, they both want this relationship, and they're both very aware of the fact that it's not traditional in that way. So I'm actually okay with some age gap stuff. Again, like, framing is really, really important. But I don't have a huge issue with that because to me, yeah, it's mostly about consent. So like, even if it is an air quotes younger character, as long as they're pretty level-headed and like not being drugged or anything, right? They know what they want. And to me, in fiction, that's okay.
Right. Okay, so one that I would definitely agree with you on is violence. I am totally okay with violence in BL. I'm okay with violence in most manga. It's just, I mean, one of my favorite series is Murcielago by Yoshi Murakana, and that is an extreme. It's a well, it's kind of a yuri, but it's like it is very violent, extremely violent. Oof. I'm thinking about it now, and I love anyway. But so yeah, violence does not bother me in BL. And I mean, now I will say that I don't necessarily. Well, that's a different. we'll talk about that later. But so yeah, violence doesn't really bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I would say to an extent. Okay, like this is kind of a weird line for me. Like we've already established that I don't like rape, but like the whole dubious consent, like
Mm-hmm.
dubious consent doesn't bother me in some situations. Like a good example
Mm-hmm.
is liquor and cigarettes. I was actually talking to an internet friend about this. I think we've talked about it too. But yeah.
We've talked about it on this
Yes.
podcast.
So I love liquor and cigarettes, and there is, which I didn't see it as dubious consent at first until other people pointed it out to me, and I was like, oh wait, yeah, that is
Mm-hmm.
because alcohol is involved, and but for me,
That ain't dubious.
yeah,
You fine.
but for me personally, I see they are a there's established trust there. Like they've known each other for a long time. They care about each other.
Mm-hmm.
What is his name? Crap. Why do I cannot Camillo is someone who would never
Mm-hmm.
he would never hurt Theo. Like they genuine like there's a genuine
Mm-hmm.
like caring. And so while he does take advantage of the fact that Theo is a lightweight, Theo is also aware of the fact that Theo knows he knows what's about to go down. Okay, like they are both aware
Mm-hmm.
of things. So there is it is dubious consent, but it's also consent. It's I guess for me it's because that's one of my kinks, and like I personally I
Mm-hmm.
like to be drunk and and asleep. I'm using air quotes. I like to be drunk and asleep, and then
Mm-hmm.
for Bay to come in and you know take advantage of me.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing that I like. And so for me, I was just like, this isn't problematic at all. Like I don't get it. What are y'all talking about? So I guess in some cases, yeah,
Right.
dubious consent can be done in a way that I personally enjoy it. Um, I'm trying to think of another example of that, but I can't off the top of my head. Um, but anyway, and then the third one that I'm okay with in BL that other people don't like. That is that. I don't actually know if I have a third one. Maybe I'm okay with like two really flawed people, like two.
That's not
That's not
problematic.
really problematic. Yeah. So there's really just for me,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just those two things because I don't there and there's also not a whole lot of things that I see as problematic that other people see as problematic. Does that make sense? Like my two
Mm-hmm.
main things are
Yeah.
rape and age gaps I do have kind of an issue with, but those are like really the only things. Everything else I'm like it's fine. Like I may or may not like it, but I don't think it's problematic. So, yeah.
Right. No, and like and I think also I need to bring up
Mm.
something about like my background with boys love is like
Mm.
when I was doing commissions and stuff like that, people would request things that are like morally abhorrent.
Right.
But they requested it, so I wrote
Right.
it. And like in hindsight, does some of that stuff make me uncomfortable now? Sure, but like so I really think it's important to mention that like my mileage for this stuff is
Right.
weird. Like I cannot tell you how many requests I got to write rape scenes. I got
Yeah.
a lot of that back in the day. Like I my mileage for that is just a little bit
Right.
off. And for better or worse in fiction.
Right.
I don't have any questions about it in real life.
Right.
But in fiction it's definitely a little bit skewed. Like that experience of reading a lot of this stuff probably too young and writing this stuff definitely way too young. Yeah, like that means that I'm more desensitized to a lot of this stuff than
Right.
most, for better or worse.
Right. Yeah.
So, should we go into the ones that are like absolute hard no-goes?
Yes.
Want me to go
I'm
first
like
again?
looking at your list and I'm dying, but I'll go.
I was not planning on this. It just happened.
I'll go first.
This was not planned.
I'll go first to give them something.
You
some
go first.
Anticipation for the listeners, because they will cackle when you do your list. So,
I hope they do.
I would absolutely say, for me, a no-go is age gaps between an adult and a minor. I don't mind age. I guess I should have said one thing I could have said in the first one. I don't mind age gaps between like a legal adult and another adult. Like, I don't mind those age gaps. And even like student teacher, if it's a college professor and a college student, I also don't mind. So I guess that's like a problematic trope that I kind of like. I know that's weird. I know it's, I know that's like not too, there's still a power dynamic there, but like, I don't know, like when I was in college, I definitely had fantasies about there are a couple teachers that I was like, ooh, I know you're my teacher, but we're both adults. Like, so yeah, like that's fine.
I had that in high school. Am I wrong for that?
I mean,
was I not supposed to have that in high school?
I mean, I definitely knew a lot. I didn't, just because I didn't have attractive teachers. So
I did one year.
I did not. So I mean, no shade.
I had one very hot teacher one year.
Right. No shade to any of my teachers, but none of them were. Yeah. So I think that's pretty normal. But so for me, for like absolute no-go, like I said, age gap between adult and a minor, because I do think that case by case, all minors are different. But I just think about myself as a minor, and I'm so glad that because I definitely, when I was underage, I definitely, quote unquote, dated, I'm using air quotes, a guy who was in his early 20s. I would have been about 16, 17, and he was in his, and I think about it like, yeah, I mean, I made, like, granted, mind you, I was still I was a late bloomer, so we weren't doing anything. I was very innocent. So when I say dating in air quotes, I mean literally, like, we would drag Maine together, and I would go and eat at Sonic with him, but there was no sexual things were going on, because I was way too, like, I was very so anyway, but like, yeah, it was definitely probably not appropriate. Like, he was, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, he was too old for me. And also, like, I'm very glad that we didn't end up together. Like, the choices that I made as a 16-year-old, I'm very, very glad that those didn't stick, I guess is what I'm saying. So for me, when I see age gaps, I like with a minor and an adult, I just don't love it, because a lot of the times they are portrayed in a way that's like romanticized, and I could see someone reading it and being like, see, look, it's okay. And I'm just like, no, it's not always okay in every situation. Like, you've got, it is a really weird thing, because there are people who have been in relationships like that and they've been perfectly fine. But it's not, but that's like not the norm. And so it's very, I consider it to be problematic, because there are people who are being harmed.
Oh, and I respect that.
The other one, wait, was that only one? Did I only mention one so far? That was
that was one.
Another no-go for me, rape. Rape in the context of, it's supposed to, like, that's how they started their relationship. Because I get that rape can happen in a story, like, when it's meant to be, like, kind of like, you understand maybe, like, why someone is the way they why someone is the way they are. And,
there we go.
like, English, please. But, like, rape used as the tool to get the couple together, no, hate it, don't like it, don't want to see it. And then I would say, you know what, another trope that I don't like in boys love is the the woman, like whenever I see a woman being portrayed as like almost like an obstacle, like the slutty obstacle who is like I'm trying. There's something that I read recently, and I can't remember what it was, but I'd seen that trope where the woman was basically made the rival, and it didn't make any sense. Like there was no need for it to be. So it's kind of like misogyny. It was why are you making this woman out to be awful when there's really no reason for her to be made out that way? That to me is problematic because there is a lot of misogyny in a lot of gay men are misogynists. That's a whole other conversation. This is true. But because men in general, but
a lot of lesbian women are still misogynistic.
Are too, yeah.
Society is misogynistic.
Yes, and so when I see
it, no lie detected.
Right. So when I see it when I see a woman unnecessarily being portrayed in a negative way, in a BL, it's just like, why? Like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to have the character like compare himself to a woman and be like, well, I'm better. Like, you don't need to do that. We can just don't have a woman in it. Like, why is she even here? Like, what's the point? You know, like,
right.
It's one thing if like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know how they could. I'm not a writer, so I don't know how they could write it to make it make sense. But
is this where we mention that I wrote 1,300 words about framing women in boys' love?
You should mention that because that is perfect.
Is this where we mention that I have a whole ass blog post that's just about how women are framed in boys' love?
It's
as a writer and media critic.
Please go and check. We're gonna put the link to that blog post in the description. Ooh, there's a hair floating. But yes, because it's a thing.
It is a thing. It's a whole ass thing.
So, excuse me. Those are my 3. Excuse me again. I keep burping. Hopefully I can cut that out. But those are my 3 things. So.
Okay.
Go ahead, Amanda. What are yours?
So I have almost no tolerance for vor, and vor is like devouring of like other people. It usually is just like weird inflation stuff. I have no tolerance for it. Mostly just so fun fact for me, when it comes to a lot of like trope stuff, it's not usually about the morality for me. It's about the logistics. So like I don't like a lot of anthro stuff, which is a bit of I'm leading you in the direction of where we're going, because to me it's like having your cake and eating it too. It's like, no, you don't get to say I want to fuck a wolf and then have like a human dick. Like you need to commit to being fully weird. Like, if you're gonna say that I want to fuck a dolphin, you need to understand what that means. So, like, I get really hung up on, like, logistics and, like, logic and stuff like that. So, like, vor for me is just, like, that's just impossible. Like, that's just not how any of this works. Like, so I can't. So, and also, like, it's just usually gross. Like, and again, it's like, I don't really like anything that's just for no good reason. And usually most vor stuff. You don't see it a lot in boys' love anymore. It used to be some stuff with, like, demons, but, like, it's not as prevalent as it used to be.
Right.
So Shotacon is one that I don't do. So, like, again, like, child characters, that is pretty much almost an absolute no-go for me.
Right.
There's one exception where I will stomach it, but I'm not okay with it, and that's one of the Gravitation Mega Mixes. I will stomach it, but that's, like, literally the only exception. Like, I almost never can, like, be okay with Shotacon.
Right.
And then the last one is bestiality, because, like, that's actually something you would see for a while in some boys' love, where it's like, we're gonna have sex with this actual dog, and it's like, no, we're not. It's like, no, we're not.
It's interesting because I have not read a BL that has legitimate, like, bestiality. I'm looking. No.
So you'll see it mostly, like, in weird doujins of stuff. Like, it's not as common, and it's older, but, like, so it's not something that you'll usually see, like, in mainstream works. You'll see it in doujins. Or you'll see it, like, you'll see it in, like, taking a premise too far. So, like, there was one where, like, it was two male characters, and, like, they both had, like, animal spirits in them so they could turn into animals. But, like, for one of the chapters, it's like, this panther's gonna fuck this dude. I'm like, nope, I don't like that.
Okay.
Go back to being a human with ears. I'm okay with that. Like, it's not usually, like, as gross or fetishistic as, like, actual bestiality, but, like, it's something for me that's kind of just, like, this is too weird and I don't like it. And again, like, it toes that line for me of, like, I don't want this in media because I don't want this normalized.
Right,
like,
yeah.
I don't want any part of this. Even if, like, within the context of the series, this makes sense. Like, this is something that, like, morally I have an issue with, so I don't want any piece of fiction, like, air quotes, normalizing this. Right. So, like, I'm okay with, like, cat boys and, like, tails and stuff like that, but, like, when you go to anthro, it's like, I don't want anyone to have, like, I don't want anyone to have a reason to think about this for too long. I think that's a big thing also, I feel like, with problematic stuff is, like, and I think that's why framing matters so much to me, is, like, I don't want anyone to have a rationale. Right. So, like, rape as romance is a big issue for me because I don't want anyone to be like, oh, well, I could do that. Right,
exactly.
I don't want to give anyone an out. I don't want, when I write scenes like that now that are problematic, I am basically like, they are mustache twirling villains.
Right.
I am doing everything I can to shine a light that this is bad.
Right.
Look at how bad this is. See that no one's having a good time.
Right.
See how everything is really tense and no one's happy and someone's crying. Look at how bad this is. Because I don't want anyone to have any opportunity to be like, this doesn't seem like it's too bad.
Right.
That's an issue for me.
Yeah. We both agree.
So I think that's one of the reasons why, like, that's on, like, I think that's one of the reasons why, like, Shotakon is, like, that's on my list, because I don't want anyone to have, like, a reason to be like, maybe.
Right.
Like, no.
Exactly. Yeah.
No.
Which I consider Shotakon, like, I put that in with my abhorrence to, towards age gaps with minors, because that's exactly, like, because I'm not okay with that, like, at all. So for me, like, any minors, to me, if you are under the age of 18, you are a child. Actually, to me, honestly, an 18-year-old is still a child. But I know legally, most places, they're seen as adults. My oldest son just turned 14. He is 4 years away from 18, and he is a child. So, and I'm just, so, like, to me, I'm just like, 4 years is not, like,
no, and I
so for me,
I can respect that, like, and that's why I go out of my way to, like, separate the two, because, like, like, I'm okay with some, like, teacher-student stuff, some, like, it doesn't do a lot for me, and it has to be very, very well written,
right?
But, like, I, depending on the work, can be okay with that, but I have no tolerance for, like, this kid is 10. Right. Like, no. Right. That's bad. Yeah. Let's get out the spray bottle and maybe call the cops. Right. I don't know. But, like, it just depends on the work. And, like, it's weird for me because as a writer and reader, I don't want people to feel a ton of shame initially. Like, I think that was the thing that I hated the most about, like, the whole, like, My Hero Academia, you're a pedophile thing was, like, so many older fans are, like, just in a place where they can be proud of their fandom. And I don't like anything that yells at women. Yeah. Like, any time that you're yelling at women, I think that that's bad. Because it's mostly younger fans yelling at older female fans. It's like, I think, you know, it's like, for me, if I were to say, like, as a 30-year-old almost, like, I think this character is attractive. If you were to call me a pedophile for that, that would seriously damage my reputation. It would probably ruin my day and could possibly ruin my life. Right. Like, and over something that's actually a fairly flippant and benign comment, because nowhere in that statement is I'm going to go try to seduce an actual high schooler. Like, nowhere in that statement of saying, I think this fictional character is aesthetically pleasing, 1-to-1 equals I am a sexual predator. Right.
Yeah.
That's not how this works.
Right. I fully agree. Like,
and I think...
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's so I think that's so frustrating. Is that like, I don't want people to suddenly start feeling a ton of shame over something that they don't need to feel shame for.
Right.
Because there's not a reason for that kind of thing. Like, there are definitely some things that you should feel shame for, but like, this ain't it, sis.
Well, I mean, there's like, this isn't a BL, but there's a manga series that I think it was being released by Tokyo Pop, but then it got dropped. Like, you know what happened to Tokyo Pop. But I have one volume, and it's called Lives or Lives. I'm not sure which one, but it's Lives or Lives. And one of the main characters, before, like, I didn't know how old this character was. Because in the beginning, you don't know anything about him. When I tell you, the first time I saw him, I was like, this man is fine. Like, when I say fine, I mean like fine. I was like, he had his shirt off, just abs on, just so. I was like, this is a very aesthetically pleasing character. So I'm like going on, and eventually in that volume, you do get his backstory, and then they throw water, they douse me with cold water because he's 17, and I was just like, first of all, there's literally no 17-year-old in the world that looks like this. Zero. Who looks like that? None. They don't exist. You can't try to tell me that they do, because they do not. They do not. Absolutely not. Do y'all remember Zac Efron? When Zac Efron did not look like when I watch High School Musical, I remember thinking that he was so cute back then. No, he wasn't. When I look back, I'm just like, wow, he looks 12. Like, that's not attractive. Okay? So, no 17-year-old looks like this man in this manga. I was hurt, because I was just like, why did you have to do this to me? He is so fine. And then I kind of caught myself being like, oh, do I feel bad for thinking he's attractive because I found out he's 17? And it's like, it's a character. I can say that this character is attractive.
It's a character.
I can say he's attractive. Right. Like, it's okay. Like
there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Right. Now, I will go back to something I said earlier. If I don't edit it out, I don't know how this is going to, but something I said earlier, I do have an issue, though, with the idea of characters that are purposefully drawn to look like children being sexualized. That is creepy. Like,
yeah, I think that falls under Shotacon.
Shotacon, yeah, or Lolicon if you're talking about something. But yeah, in this case, Shotacon, like, that is creepy, because that is a child. Like, that is clearly, it's not some.
No, I agree with you,
because it's definitely not someone who has a 35-year-old's body, but then they're telling us they're 17. You know, this is a child that actually has a child's body. Or sometimes they'll do it where they'll draw the character to look like a child, but then say that they are such and such age. Like, that can also kind of be a little bit borderline creepy. Like, I know there are different body types, and I am someone who has a body type that is typically associated with very young people. It's still, I feel like it's still obvious that I'm an adult. Like, it's obvious that I'm not a child, you know? And there's a way that some characters are drawn where, like, yeah, they are drawn to look young, but we're being told that they are, say, 20, but then they act in a certain way that is very young, you know, and naive. And so they have a personality that feels very young to go with their young body, but then you're telling us that they're 40. That kind of creeps me out too, because it's like, you're giving them an older age to, like, save to kind of, like, save face, but really that's a child. A little bit. Yeah, you know, and I'm mentioning that.
Well, I have that a little bit. I have that a little bit with like, because I have a whole Twitter just for smut, because got to keep it organized. And, like, my favorite is, like, all characters represented are 18 plus. Yeah. And it's like, that's the exact same as the other character. Right. Like, that's the exact same as the canon version of that character. Right. But okay, 18 plus. Yeah. Like, we're covering our ass to say, like, you can't clock us, but, like, that's literally the exact same. Yeah. So, like,
I see. Yep. I see it a lot in hentai. Like, it'll be like, oh, characters are, are 18 plus, and I'm just like, now, sis, you know damn well.
Right. Like, well, and especially like especially if it's like artists that are drawing fan art of stuff where it's like that is the exact same Deku who's supposed to be 16. You a fucking liar.
Right.
What you mean 18? Like,
you know better.
You know good. That is the exact same Naruto. You need to cut that the fuck out.
Oh,
like,
man.
it'll either don't lie or do it right.
Right.
Like,
but the Legoshi thing, Legoshi doesn't look like a teenager. Legoshi looks like a grown-ass
he looks
wolf.
like a fucking wolf, is what he looks like. He looks like a goddamn wolf. What do you mean he doesn't look like a teenager? He looks like a fucking wolf. He doesn't look like a teenager. He looks like a goddamn animal is what he looks like. He don't look like a teenager. He looks like a fucking animal is what he looks like. Fucking teen wolf ass shit. No, I do not support this deviant lifestyle that you're living. He doesn't look 17.
Oh my gosh. Ugh. My stomach. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have some abs. Listen, I've been losing my abs a little bit during this quarantine, but after today, my abs might be coming back. Like,
I don't have abs, but I do have tits.
Yeah, that you do.
Can we talk about the only reasons you keep me around are for yaoi recommendations, media criticism, sass,
and
my ability to cook and bake, and my tits?
I mean,
like that's it.
I mean, but what else?
Those are good
what
reasons.
Else do I need? Like this.
Oof.
I'm like.
I'm a lovely pair of titties that can bake and speak media.
Yes, that's honestly like that's all I need. I really don't.
I'm glad for you. I'm glad that that's all you need. I'm happy for you.
Woo, man. So speaking of,
yes,
critiques and things like that, would you, looking at the time, we've been here for a couple hours, would you want to give your story time of the 3 series that made you walk away, or do you want to save that for possibly a live show?
Ooh. You know what? I'm up for it if you're up for it. I'm awake. I can do it. Okay. So, in my 15-year history of reading boys love manga, now there was one fan fiction that made me walk away from fan fiction, and maybe that we can do when we go live.
Okay.
But there's been 3 boys love manga that I've had to put down and walk away from. One of them is Jay no Subete.
Okay.
It's very good. It emotionally traumatized me, but there is a certain scene that does feature sexual assault with a foreign object. It's a gun.
Oh.
And I remember being in college and getting to that scene and having to close out the browser and being like, I need a minute.
Yeah.
I needed several minutes because it's a very emotional series. It's a very, very messy series. It's also very long. Jay no Subete is a mess, but I'm glad that was almost like a hate read. Like, after a certain point, I was no longer enjoying it. I just needed to know what was happening next. But, like, I could not say that I enjoyed it or that I recommend it.
Right.
It was like an ordeal that I had to go through.
Right.
The second one I actually can't remember the title of, but it centered around a dude who had his arms cut off and his seme was way too into it. And I normally don't have an issue with that kind of stuff, but, like, it was this weird, like, Venus de Milo thing, and I just needed a break. I needed, like, time. The third, I think, is actually the most scandalous, and I need to go sojourn to my shelf to pick it up. Hold on.
Oh,
God. Let me see. Where is it? Woo! Found it. Okay, so there's a little bit of preamble with this one. Mm-hmm. So, it's called In These Words. And basically what happened is that, in these words, so I found this on Amazon, and I just threw it on my wish list, because based on, like, the synopsis, I thought it was interesting. It's basically, like, the synopsis billed it as this cop who is trying to catch a murderer, and, like, it's kind of hot. I'm like, okay, cool. I like criminal minds that make it gayer.
Right.
I'm here for that. So based on the synopsis, I added it to my wish list. And my beautiful then girlfriend was like, I'm going to get this for Amanda for Christmas. So I received this manga for Christmas, and I'm very excited. My girlfriend is so sweet, got me this manga that I like. I'm living at home with my aunt and my grandmother, and, you know, during that time my grandmother was kind of ailing, and we had a priest over to do a blessing of the house. So I'm reading In These Words, which is indeed about a cop and a murderer, and we got to a scene that features kidnapping and rape and some very, very gross emotional manipulation, to which I put down the manga, I walked downstairs, and I prayed with my Catholic family. It was so bad that I needed the intervention of the Lord.
I've got to look, okay, in
these words, it was so bad that I had to go downstairs and pray with my family. And I proceeded to go upstairs after praying with my family, and I told my then girlfriend, I hate you.
Wow.
And we spent the evening saying I cannot be trusted. So
why are you curious? 52. Okay, no, I'm not that curious. $52.
Why are you curious? Ooh, it's a collector's item.
Ooh, okay. This reminds me a little bit of Killing Stalking.
I liked that one.
I never finished it, but I did read a lot of it, and that was one that I was honestly like so. It was compelling. I'll put it that way. Like, I was disturbed but compelled, and I don't even remember why I stopped reading it. I think I just got distracted with other things, but, like, this sounds like some Killing Stalking kind of crazy, which I...
Do you want a sample?
Kind of do, because I am kind of into super... I mean, it sounds like the framing might be like it doesn't seem like it's one that's.
The framing isn't terrible. Okay, yeah. I can give you a sample.
Yeah, because it has some really, like, the reviews on Amazon are cracking me up because there's like so many 5-star reviews.
It's not bad. It was so out of left field from what I was expecting that I had to go downstairs and pray with a Catholic priest.
Wow, I'm actually very intrigued now because...
Okay. So here's a good one. But I'll go easier on you if you make nice sounds for me, Katsuya. I really like being kind to you. It's wonderfully intoxicating stripping away layers from you, skinning you alive like this. That way I can crawl deep inside you, just with a simple connection between our bodies. And then all I need to do is remind you over and over again just whom you belong to until that is all you know.
That sounds so manipulative and kind of hot. I'm, I'm just gonna throw that out there. I may be problematic.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I may be a deviant.
I mean, it's good. Like, there is no part of me that can say it's bad.
Right.
It's good. It was just so violently not what I was expecting based on the synopsis.
Right.
That was like, I need to take a break.
Right.
And I need Jesus promptly. So I went downstairs, did a little prayer, came back up, went back to reading smut, which is about as Catholic as it gets.
I mean, yeah. I'm very intrigued. I'm not intrigued enough to pay $52. So I'll have to like...
I can send you my copy. You can borrow it.
You trust me?
No. No. But I also know where to find you.
That is very true.
I can also hunt you down like a fucking animal.
That is very, very true. I'm very...
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Oh, wait, is it like a one volume? Is it like a omnibus?
There should be another volume. I don't think it ever got released in the US, so you might have to pirate. You might have to pirate.
I don't know if I want to.
Do you want to know how it ends?
We'll see.
Because even I don't know how it ends.
Oh, really?
I never found volume 2.
Well, dang. Oh, man. I don't know if I want to read it. I'm so intrigued.
There's a hammer in this scene.
Oh, I'm so...
And a Bowie knife.
I wonder if it's... Oh, you know what? I wonder if it's, like, available in Spanish.
You're cheating using your language abilities.
That's what I did with Twittering Birds Never Fly. I have
Hell yeah.
I have volumes 4 through 6 in Espanol.
I hate you.
So, no, I haven't started.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So.
Bitter hatred.
So once I start reading this series, I'll be able to... I mean, it'll take me a little while because my Spanish is rusty, but it'll be good. It'll be good practice for me.
Bitter hatred. I don't have... So, I have 1 through 3.
Yeah, that's what I have. 1 through 3 in English, which is all we have, I think, in English.
Mm-hmm.
You have to...
Yep.
Like, you have to buy it in another language. So I definitely went ahead. And also, the Spanish covers are so much nice. Like, the Spanish prints are so much nicer than the English ones.
Mm-hmm.
In mi opinion.
So that's story time. I hope you enjoyed the 3 series that really gave me pause. And when we go live, because I think we're planning a live pretty soon that we'll have some more details on, I will definitely recount the fan fiction that made me recount. Like, I literally walked away from fan fiction because of that one. It was that bad.
I'm very intrigued. I can't wait for this. Yes.
Yeah, I think you can. I think you can. I think you can wait.
I feel like you were probably surprised that I'm very intrigued by this other one that you mentioned. So, you never know.
So here's the thing. I'm not. Only because I know that you like messy things. True. And I know that, and I also know that because we know each other, I would not give you something that isn't framed appropriately. True. So, like, very I'm not shocked. Like, yeah. I think, yeah, like, I'm not that surprised by it, actually, because I think at this stage we know each other pretty well. Yeah. But I think what you may have been surprised with is how quickly I was able to bind myself in elastic.
I am, yes. We're going through it, y'all. This is we have been recording now for
3 hours.
yeah, it's been a long one, but it's been an I've loved this conversation. This has been so much fun. I'm gonna
Oh
have a
yeah, I've had a
blast
great
editing
time.
this. It's gonna take a while to edit, I think. Um,
Yes.
but
But that's okay.
that's
We do
fine.
this for you, our listeners.
Yes. And it's we have a great time, and I loved this conversation. I'm really excited to hear what
Same.
everyone has to say, because I think that this would be a very interesting. The comments are going to be interesting, I hope. So
Yeah. But let's keep it respectful. You know,
yes.
I understand if you agree or disagree with us, but
Mm-hmm.
let's keep everything chill. We're all adults
Yeah.
here, and I will take your ass to the ground if you're rude. I am 5'1" of pure unbridled fury. I have nothing to lose. I have been doing this for 15 years. Fight me.
She's like looking, she's like, the quarantine has her, she's
Like,
like looking
come
for it.
at.
She's like,
No, I'm always like this. Like, if you look at my panel videos, I have the most intense and severe resting bitch face because I am waiting.
like,
And even when like, well, what do you feel about this? No. Like, you're just wrong. I'm sorry. It's like, well, actually, no.
nope.
You're wrong. Like, come at me. Like, this is just how I am. Because, like I said, like, this is what fandom has always been.
Mm.
It's been arguing. It's been, now it's not, throwing people under the bus. It's not, you're a pedophile, boom, leave conversation. It's,
right.
like, it's fighting with each other. It's having those, like, mock battles, because then you learn. It's sort of like, uncomfortable animal metaphor, but like dogs. When dogs play with each other, they bite, because then they learn that they can't bite too hard because their sibling's gonna bite the shit back at them.
Right.
I think a lot of people on the internet that are younger, they haven't had that experience of being bitten. They haven't had that experience of someone telling them, you are fucking wrong. So because they haven't had that, they just keep throwing out these words that are increasingly dangerous and increasingly scary. Like, you don't get to throw around, you're a pedophile. You can ruin someone's life. You don't get to throw around words like that and think that they don't have consequences.
Yeah.
They have not had anyone that has bitten them yet and said, you need to shut the hell up.
Right.
They haven't been challenged, and I think that that's honestly a big problem. So challenge me. Come at me. Tell me you think I'm wrong. But just know, if you do not have an argument ready, I will take you to the mat.
And I will stand there and I will cackle and just, because I love mess, and I'll be like, with my popcorn.
Because I think that's the funniest part of this whole dichotomy, is that, truthfully, if you are the seme to me, you have the worst attack uke, but you get off on it.
Yes. I'm like,
you are watching a Pomeranian take down a coyote, and you are getting off to it.
And I'm sitting there like,
I think that's the worst part.
Like, oh no, stop, don't attack, don't do that. Where really I'm like, get
right,
him.
it's like, don't
Get him.
Get him. Get her.
Don't
You know,
bite.
it's like, oh,
Don't do that.
Right, but like not doing anything to stop it either. Yeah, you have a Pomeranian who's fighting a coyote at this stage, and you're just like, oh no, stop, please. You've already let go of the leash. You pulled out a lawn chair. You're just watching at this stage.
Getting my
oh no, please stop.
Let someone stop.
Right, you have snacks. Right, so, but yeah. I look forward to robust conversation.
Yes.
I look forward to going live. We'll probably announce that soon, because the quarantine's made us go crazy.
Yeah.
What are we covering for episode 5?
What are we covering for episode 5? I don't remember.
Darling, that's why I asked you. Darling, that's why I asked you. What are we covering for episode 5?
Do we have anything, like, are we ready to go into, like, talking about series? Like, specific series? Or do we have any more?
Definitely can. Do you wanna do our first, like, manga retrospective?
Do you know who I want to choose?
Is there another option?
No.
So next episode, we're doing a retrospective of Fumi Yoshinaga. Tired Uke is tired.
Yay.
The Seme has gotten her wish. Finally, the Chekhov's gun. We've talked about Fumi Yoshinaga in every episode. And now we get to talk about Fumi Yoshinaga as a mangaka. Some of the series that we love, some of the series that we don't like.
Yes.
And when is it okay to ever retcon your own series to add in a rape scene because you feel like being masturbatory and self-serving? Cough.
I will defend my queen in the next episode.
And just like last time, I look forward to destroying you in Cross.
No. Oh, that's the sad thing. That's what's gonna happen. But you know what?
And just like last time, I look forward to that beautiful face that she makes when she has to go and because I put my dick and my degree down on the table and I hit her with both. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Oh, the worst thing is that I keep getting these visuals and oh my gosh.
This woman is going to die before this podcast is over. I'm going to straight up kill her before this podcast is over.
Oh my gosh. You know what, y'all? We're gonna go.
We're gonna go.
Thank
it's
y'all
late.
so much for listening. Enjoy this outro music.
Yeah, y'all enjoy this outro music. You can find me across the internet at AichiYume and on my blog over at Amanda Actually.
Yes, and you can find me. You can just Google Mama Loves Manga, honestly, and stuff will pop up.
And she come up. She do come up.
And that's not a flex. That's not like a brag. It's just like I have done it. I have Googled myself. Yeah, it is what it is. Okay, Mama Loves Manga everywhere that you could think of, except for OnlyFans. Not there yet. But this quarantine, it's got me considering.
Ma'am, you don't have anything to show unless you have legs and ankles. Are you gonna show leg? Are you gonna be Naomi Smalls?
Yes.
It's just gonna be legs into frames? Okay. Okay. Well.
On that note.
Someone has to make money in this family. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed your visit to the Yaoi Shelf. We'll see you next time.
Bye.